it's time to sit back and relax with your favorite drink. And listen. Anything for Mother by Corpse Child. Mother is the name for God on the lips and hearts of children. Isn't that how the old saying goes? Growing up, it was certainly the case for me. Mother was my angel, my savior. Anytime I hear of the Virgin Mary, I have and always will picture Mother. She was my goddess, and I am her devout disciple. Anything Mother requested or needed of me, I obeyed without question or hesitation. Well, I feel it's the least I could have done, given how much she'd given just for me. By rights, my mother didn't have to give me nearly as much as she has. Hell, I wasn't technically hers. Whose child I was, well, I don't think I or anyone else could ever tell you. It was all so long ago, and I was very little. My first memory of Mother and of my family is very hazy, being so young at the time. But I do still remember certain details, such as the emotions I experienced that night. I remember it was cold, bitter, and I was wailing, afraid and alone, aimlessly wandering about here in the middle of the woods, feebly trying to find my way back out. How and why I was in the woods in the first place are questions that, again, I don't know who will ever have an answer for. I just remember how I woke up one night as a toddler in the heart of the woods. I remember the very first glimpse I caught of Mother. Admittedly, I was, of course, terrified. I probably wouldn't have even known why at the time, but I guess even small children have some ingrained sense of danger about another living creature. She leered down at me, a predator to a wounded prey, with her small, ruby-red eyes. She was tall, almost a quarter to half the size of some of the taller trees in the encompassing woods, with long, gangly arms and hands that reached down even past her tall thighs. Her face, as well as her body, seemed to blend with the color of the night, and so I couldn't see any defining features. I remember how I just stood there, quivering and looking up at her. I didn't know what to think. All I knew how to do at that age was wander alone in these dark, cold woods, crying and lost. I'll also never forget those first words she ever spoke to me. "Why do you cry?" Her voice was soft, soothing and tender, yet at the same time distorted. It seemed to have an echo in it. Though still frightened, I remember feeling some of the apprehension melt away at her voice. I'm scared." She cocked her head to the side, still gazing down at me with her burning eyes. Her head then twitched like the legs of a cricket, even making a similar noise to a cricket, as she raised one of her hands just enough to touch my face. Naturally, I flinched at her touch at first. When I felt how soft and smooth her fingers fell against my face, though, I slowly relented. "Why are you afraid, little cub?" "I don't know where I am. I'm all alone and I'm hungry and cold. I want my mommy." As I started blubbering again, Mother's head snapped to the other side and twitched like before. She spoke again, continuing to lovingly stroke my cheek. "Cry no more, little one. You aren't alone here, and I won't let anything happen to you." She then moved her claw-like hand from my face up to the top of my head. Her eyes began to glow, and I felt a burning sensation that seemed to come from inside my head, forcing me to shut my eyes and shriek in pain. When I opened my eyes again, Mother was now kneeling down to meet my gaze, stroking my hair. "I am so sorry. Come with me, little one. No more will you be mistreated. I'll take care of you." I just stood there quivering and with a frightened whelp, looking at her with tear-soaked eyes. Suddenly, from her shadowed body, I saw 4 large, leathery-looking wings, like that of a bat, unraveling from around her torso. "Come, don't be afraid." And that's when I felt her scoop me up and cradle me close to her chest. I tried to struggle, writhing like a fish gasping on a hook, but it was useless. I was held tightly in Mother's embrace. As quickly as I could blink, we were airborne. I beat and beat on her chest with all the might and vigor a 3-year-old was capable of, pitifully crying and begging for her to put me down. Eventually I must have tired myself out and fallen asleep, thrashing and screaming the way I was, because the next thing I knew, Mother had descended in front of the mouth of a cave at the base of the mountain that overlooks the woods. "Where am I?" I squeaked, frantically throwing my head around to regain my bearings. "Welcome home, my little cub," she warmly replied. I looked into the cave. It was shrouded in darkness, as Mother was herself, even somehow able to stand out from the rest of the pitch-black night, save for a single orange-looking speck deep within. She sat me down, and I just stood, frozen, or petrified, with legs that felt like gelatin. I felt her begin to nudge me forward toward the cave. "Go on, don't be afraid." I slowly and stiffly trudged forward. I remember hearing loud cackling, more deranged than even that of a hyena, echoing out of the cave from within. Eventually I was swallowed by the darkness of the cave. I could hear the cackling grow closer and closer, some even approaching from my left and right. "I'm home, my children," Mother announced from behind me. The cackling was now tight on top of me, and I wanted to turn around to run back out into the dark, foreboding woods. Mother's urging me forward would not permit this, however. "And what have you fetched for supper tonight, Mother?" The voice from directly in front of me questioned, sounding similar in tone and in cadence to Mother, although obviously a lot less comforting and much more vicious. Even Mother's urging couldn't push me forward any more now. "Back away," she commanded. "To the fire go, and we shall dine as a family." Sure enough, the deranged cackling grew distant, moving away from me and seeming to travel toward the orange glow at the other end of the cave. "They're gonna eat me." When I turned to run the other way, however, just as I'd feared, Mother deterred me from doing so. "To the fire, little one," she cooed softly, continuing to nudge me forward. Eventually, she took me gently by my hand and led me toward the rather larger-looking fire compared to the more claustrophobic surroundings of the cave. When we finally reached the fire, I could hear the sounds of scurrying, like a multitude of creatures simultaneously converging toward the fire, the clicking of nails or talons being echoed all throughout the cave. I began to see more tiny, red, beady eyes, similar to Mother's, pierce the darkness in front of me the closer they came to the fire. There were pairs of eyes from right in front of me, as well as one on my left and right. I couldn't run or hide, and I was now even in so much of a state of shock that I couldn't even cry in fear anymore. "He's so small," whispered the voice coming from my left. "Come, my little cubs, gather around." At her command, they finally came into the light. Well, that's another thing I'll never forget about that night. The mix of confusion and sheer terror that flooded my entire body, freezing my blood solid. The first time I saw them, the ones I would, in time, call my siblings. The one in front of me, as well as the one on my left, both had bright pink skin that stretched over their bones and long, gangly arms and equally slender legs. Wrapped around their pink, emaciated bodies, they too had large, dark wings. The one on my right was very much the same, except that I could tell this one was female because of its longer hair and breasts. The three of them squatted around the fire, looking me dead in the eyes, sizing me up. The one on my left slowly started to skulk toward me. I saw him open his mouth, splitting it unnaturally, or at least unnaturally to any human understanding, in 4 different directions, bearing rows of slender, jagged teeth, and distending wide enough that he probably would have had no problem devouring me whole. I could see him drooling, and his long, pointed tongue slowly unraveled from its grotesque maw, lapping out and weaving like it was a snake. "Don't you touch him," Mother bellowed, her voice echoing so hard that I swear I could have felt the cave shaking. The creature halted dead in its tracks, looking up behind me to Mother. He started backing away to the fire again while I just sat there, trembling and weeping. I thought my heart was finally going to stop. Everything was spiraling in my head in a hysterical frenzy. What is this place? Why am I here? What are these things? Where's my home? My mummy and daddy? I felt a hand on my shoulder, instantly breaking me from my frightened trance, and I turned back and shrieked, stumbling back at what I saw. It was Mother, in all of her full detail, no longer shrouded in darkness. She looked just like the other three. Tight pink skin, large brown wings wrapped around her waist, and a gaping maw that would stretch and split into 4 directions. I saw her head twitch to the side as she just stood there, observing me with her glowing red eyes as I shakily curled into a fetal position. She then squatted down to me, reaching out a large, gangly hand to stroke my cheek. "Don't cry, little one. You're safe now." Her voice was smooth again, tender and loving. Even still, I just stayed huddled in terror. She crawled closer and sat down beside me in front of the fire. "We're hungry, Mother," the one on the left eagerly snapped. I watched as Mother then crawled away from the fire, disappearing again into the darkness before re-emerging, now dragging the corpse of a fresh-killed deer in her right hand. I could hear the others titter with excitement. "Patience, my children," Mother commanded tenderly. "The first portion is for him, our newest little cub." The others then looked at me. "He's so small, Mother," hissed the one to my right, the female of the litter. "Where did you find him, Mother?" the one on the other side of the fire in front of me asked. Mother didn't reply to either of them. She tore one of the legs clean away from the deer, handing it to me. "Go on, little one," she cooed. "You must eat." I stared back at Mother, unaware of what to do. I was confused and repulsed. I was hungry, but the idea of trying to eat a raw animal like that, at the time, sickened me out of any real appetite I might have had. Looking at the others around me, I could see their attention fixed on me, wondering, expecting me to take the deer leg and begin feasting on it like they wanted to. Slowly I reached up and took it with shaking hands. I could already smell the odor of death assaulting me as I took the leg. For another moment I hesitated. I really didn't want to do it at first. My stomach began to growl, however, when I could hear the others tittering grow more excited. Part of my young mind at the time must have panicked, afraid of what they'd do to me if I didn't eat the deer leg. I thought they might indeed make me their meal after all, regardless of Mother's demands. So finally, I took a bite from it. Yet another part of that night that I can't forget. The very first moment I ever tasted the raw flesh of another creature, something that would become a very prevalent part of my lifestyle as I grew through the years and up to the present. The meat was tough, extremely so, to a point where I could barely even swallow a portion of it. I actually ended up choking on it, regurgitating most of it back up. I looked up to Mother, somewhat expecting her to be angry. But surprisingly, she just patted my head. "Don't fret, my little cub. One day you'll be able to eat like us." That's when she used her long, clawed hands to begin tearing out bite-sized chunks of meat from the deer leg. She reached out again with the small meaty chunks in her palm. I, of course, didn't want to eat at first. The aching from my stomach from lack of food, however, caused my instincts to eclipse my reasoning, and I, albeit hesitantly, scooped up a handful from Mother's palm and quickly stuffed them into my mouth. Well, it was unpleasant, to say the least. They felt so slimy going down my throat, and I did end up gagging again, but I had managed to keep them down this time. Mother patted my head softly before then splitting the rest of the deer to serve the other three. I then watched as they senselessly devoured the rest of the deer. That night ended with Mother huddling around me in front of the fire, cradling me to her chest. "Rest well, my little cub," she softly whispered into my ear. I guess that's another thing about Mother. Somehow her voice, even back then, was always able to soothe me. Her voice always seemed to sound the way they say an angel's would, or rather, like what you'd expect a loving mother to sound like to a small child. Like I've said before, of any memory before that night, I am completely without. In all respects, my life essentially began then and there in those woods, with the family, with Mother. For the first time in my life, I was given a name, the only one I've ever known. Cub. That was me, the little cub, the runt of the litter, not able to do much on my own in the wild. In fact, fear alone of just about everything that made noise or even moved in the outside world made acclimatizing to this newfound lifestyle very difficult. Naturally, this would tend to drive a clear wedge in between me and my siblings. Many times I remember how they'd tell me that one day they'd just leave me behind in the woods again, so they'd go back to living as they had before Mother had found me. At least, that's what little brother would suggest occasionally. Big brother, the bigger one with the foot-long curved talons on his hands, usually just whispered at night how he planned to help himself to my tender flesh when Mother wasn't around to stop him. Well, I guess I was fortunate then that Mother wouldn't ever let me out of her sight when I was little. Of course, that may have been another reason they disliked me so. Mother seemed to hold an even bigger fondness for me than the others. I never understood why, and I guess in some ways I still don't. But Mother has always kept me closer to her than the rest. Even as I grew into adolescence, Mother always handled me with the softest manners. In spite of this, I was even able to, over time, forge a bond with my siblings, or I did with sister and little brother anyway. Big brother, I suppose, couldn't forgive that I'd seemed to have stolen Mother's affections from him. I guess, though, it was because of him that I would learn one significant thing, what it was like and how it felt to kill another living being for the first time. By this time, I was much older and bigger. I'd grown to stand at least 5 feet tall, able to meet eye level with little brother, and at least chest level with big brother. It was at this time that Mother would let the others take me out into the woods to hunt for food with them, without being present herself. I was frightened at first, never before having learned how to hunt, much less kill another animal. But by now the winter was approaching and Mother had always grown weaker with the colder weather. That meant that we, the cubs, had to venture out to gather food. Before though, being so small and defenseless, I'd always stayed in the cave with Mother while the others went out. But now I felt that the time was right for me to join them in gathering food for her. Mother was reluctant, and I could see Big Brother wasn't fond of the idea either. In the end, however, Mother ruled in my favor, and I was to accompany Big Brother into the woods. Trying as hard as I could, I just wasn't able to keep up with him. And of course, he had no qualms with essentially abandoning me the first chance they could. And so there I was, deep in the heart of the woods again, alone, defenseless and scared. But this time, I knew I couldn't simply just hope that I'd be rescued by Mother or anything else. No, I'd have to finally learn how to fend for myself. For a while, I just stood there listening, trying to get a bearing on my surroundings. That was how I learned to focus my hearing and learn the different sounds of the world around me. The sounds of the wind bristling through the trees, the distinct sounds of the different critters around me in the woods. I learned which ones chirped and which ones would howl or squeak, which ones were fast when scurrying about and which ones would take their time. Finally, I heard it. I heard the sound of heavy footsteps approaching. They were approaching quickly despite how heavy they sounded. Whatever it was moving on 2 feet rather than 4, unlike the deer that usually pass through these woods. Another thing that was different was the sounds it was making. It was a familiar sound. Too familiar. "Hey, Orville, take a gander over here." I heard this coming from my right, and I quickly dove behind a nearby tree. Still concentrating, I could hear the heavy footsteps coming toward the spot I was standing in only a moment ago, now joined by another set of footsteps equally as heavy. I heard them again. "What is it, Sol? What are you going on about now?" "You telling me you didn't see that rushing off there?" "See what?" "I don't really know, but I'm almost willing to bet I saw a boy dart off into the trees there." "Where?" I could hear them come closer and closer until I could hear them stop right where I was standing before. "Well, right there." I heard one of them bark a laugh before saying, "Sal, sometimes you make me wonder about all them trips to the bar you've been making lately." "Oh, damn it to hell, Rick. I know what I saw. There was a boy standing right here." Soon, though, I began to feel a breeze blast all across my right side, followed by a distant flapping sound. Oh, I knew that sound. "Big Brother?" "You hear that, Sol?" I heard the first one say again. "What now?" "Shh, listen," I heard him say. "You hear that?" A moment passed and I could hear the flapping get closer, starting to fade with each inch it gained, as if trying to silently now zero in on our location. That was when a head-splitting screech was heard, and I saw Big Brother dart down from the sky, tackling and pinning one of them down. I could see him struggling underneath Big Brother, but to no purpose. Big Brother began tearing and biting at the throat of his prey, and that's when I heard a loud bang, followed by Big Brother screeching in pain. I saw him clutching his arm, and I could see a black stream running down his right wing. I heard it again, and again Big Brother cried out in pain. "Oh, they're gonna kill him!" And that's when I bounded out from behind the tree and grabbed onto the one that Big Brother had attacked. Immediately I bit into his throat and started gouging his eyes, just as I'd seen Big Brother do. I could feel him trying to pry me off, but he must have been weakened by either mine or Big Brother's assault. It wasn't long before I felt him cease struggling and go limp. I heard another bang before a searing pain surged through my right arm. I looked up to see the other one, holding his weapon in my direction. For a second I just stared, frozen in fear, expecting for him to use it again to finish me. But that was when something strange happened. This monster, then lowered his weapon, and I watched his eyes widen as if in shock. No, it can't be, he mumbled. Oh, his guard is down, I thought. Now's my chance. I slowly crawled toward him. He stood motionless, mouth agape. "Ben," he finally said. "Benny, is that you?" I kept crawling toward him, paying no attention to his words. I wasn't going to be swayed from my objective. I'd kill him for what he'd done to Big Brother. He then slung his weapon over his shoulder and said, "Oh my God, Benny! Sweet Jesus, Mary and Joseph! My little Benny, it's really you!" He sounded elated, like he'd just realized some great truth. I stopped when I saw him start toward me. I lowered myself to the ground, poised to pounce as soon as he was close enough. I'd go for the throat, just as I'd done with the other one, and I wouldn't stop there. I'd rip and tear him inside out. "Oh, my boy, I thought I'd lost you." And that's when I sprang for the kill. In an instant, my teeth were sunk into his flesh, and I could taste his blood flowing into my mouth. Oh, it was exhilarating. He frantically tried prying me off of him, but it was useless. I had him and he wasn't getting away. I was doing it. I was finally killing my own prey, just like the family, just like Mother. His flailing became weaker and weaker. I released my jaws from his throat and stood over him, triumphant, watching as his body convulsed until finally relaxing. As the life left his eyes, he opened his mouth and made a series of gurgled, croaking noises. I noticed, though, that he seemed to be trying to speak. "Benny," I heard him choke out. "I'm so sorry, son." And with this, his eyes closed and he was lifeless. I stood frozen. Adrenaline was still surging through me. I did it! I killed my first prey! My heart was racing and I began beating my chest, howling to the sky. I was grown now. I was now a hunter. I was no longer just the little cub. I was an alpha. Then I looked at the face. I wasn't sure why, but something struck me about his face. Something was almost familiar with it. It looked a lot like me. I knelt down and observed him more closely. His jaw was pointed, his face gaunt. I felt my own face to find that my face matched these features. What is this? I wondered. I ran over to the nearby stream and looked into the river. And that's when adrenaline left me, and I was horrified with what I saw. It was him. I saw the younger face of my prey staring up at me from the lake. I couldn't believe it. I wouldn't believe it. It had to be some trick. Why did this man look like me, or I look like him? What was he? He was a monster. He'd hurt Big Brother, my family. So why did I have the same face as him? I ruffled the water and began clawing at my face. This isn't real. This isn't real. I'm not him. I'm nothing like him. Deep down in the deepest part of my heart, though, I knew the truth. His dying whispers started repeating in my head. I'm sorry, son. Overcome with rage, I started howling at the sky while pounding the ground with my fists. I took up nearby stones and hurled them in every direction, not caring what they'd hit. I was lost, mentally and emotionally, and I had no control over my behaviors. Eventually I collapsed to the ground, exhausted. I was weak and tired. Just as I was losing consciousness, I heard, in the distance, the sound of large flapping wings. From above I could see the silhouette of Mother as she descended. I finally fell unconscious when I felt Mother lift me from the ground, cradling me just as she'd done all those years ago when I was still so small, weak and fragile. It was night when I awoke again. Sister and little brother were huddled around the fire, Mother in the middle with her back facing me. My body still felt so exhausted and I was slow to move again. Mother, I murmured softly. I saw Sister and little brother snap to look at me. Mother didn't move. I weakly began crawling my way over to them. Approaching the fire, I noticed that the faces of the other two were downcast and somber. They looked at me and Sister asked, What happened? Reaching the fire, I felt my heart fall from my chest. It was Big Brother. He lay in front of Mother, motionless. I scurried over and began shaking him, crying out, Big Brother, wake up! I felt Mother's hand rest on my shoulder, pulling me away. I stayed firm, though, feebly shaking the body of Big Brother until she forcefully pulled me away from him. He's gone, little one. I crumpled on the floor of the cave and began crying. Every bit of the vigor, the confidence, the triumph I'd earlier felt had now all but abandoned me. I was now just the crying whelp I was all that time ago when Mother had found me. Big Brother was dead, and it was all my fault. I was weak, like I'd always been. If I was strong like my family was, I could have saved him. But I wasn't like them. I was like the ones that had killed him. It's all my fault, I bawled, looking at Mother. She was silent, continuing to stare at the fire. I just laid there, crying. I didn't know what else to do. I wanted Mother to say something, anything. I wanted her to either absolve me or condemn me, to either show me love or her wrath. Instead, she did none of that. She just sat, silent. In some way, I knew what this meant. She hated me. I was responsible for the death of her firstborn, and she would never forgive me. I cried until eventually falling asleep again. It wasn't long before I was awakened again by the sounds of shuffling coming toward me. I slowly stirred awake to find Sister and little brother crawling low to the ground, the way I saw them do when they were set to pounce. Sister, little brother, what's going on? He's awake, Sister whispered. Little brother then bounded toward me, his talons outstretched, ready to tear me apart. With quicker reflexes than I ever thought possible, I rolled out of the way and stood up. Sister spread her wings and attempted to glide toward me, catching my face and knocking me over with a vicious swipe of her talons. She circled around and landed, leering over me. What are you doing? What Big Brother would have wanted us to do. It's because of you, cub, that he's dead, little brother hissed before pouncing on top of me. He immediately started slashing at me, opening wide gashes in my chest. I shrieked with pain as he sent one of his claws across my eye. I was able to hurl him off me and send him crashing into the wall of the cave. I was about to try and run, but Sister was too quick, and in seconds she had me pinned down again. She sent a hard stomp onto my shoulder, immediately breaking it. She did the same to my other arm, proclaiming, We should have listened to Big Brother. We should have eaten you when Mother first brought you here. With my one good eye, I watched Sister raise up and unhinge her jaws when, all of a sudden, she was swept off from the top of me by something huge. Looking up, I saw that it was Mother. She had sister and little brother held down to the wall of the cave. I used the opportunity to run, bolting straight to the mouth of the cave. I ran and ran, not at all knowing where I was going or even where I wanted to go. At some point, I twisted my ankle and fell. My lungs were starved of air and I was aching all over. My body felt broken, both from the injuries of the struggle as well as from sheer exhaustion. Because of this, I couldn't move. I just laid on my back, staring up at the night sky and the trees above me. I remember how cold it was, and I began to wonder if that would be it for me. That I was going to freeze to death there on the forest floor, alone. Weak. Without anyone. Without Mother. As exhausted as I was, I wouldn't be able to fall asleep. I stared at the sky all night and into the next dawn. I picked myself up again when the sun was finally high enough for its light to break the top of the tree line. Not knowing where to go, I began wandering through the woods. This went on for hours. How many I couldn't tell you, and I can't tell you what time of day it was either when I finally stopped. What I can tell you is that it was when I heard sounds familiar to the ones that I'd heard the previous day that I quickly dove for a nearby tree. Looking out, there were 4 of them, tall, broad-shouldered figures that were covered in blue and spoke into their shoulders. 2 of them I saw had what appeared to be dogs, like those Big Brother and the others would occasionally bring to the cave for supper. These, however, were much bigger and looked far more vicious. I started to panic when I saw one of them turn and begin to bark in my direction, alerting the others. I watched them move closer to me, and I stood frozen, not knowing whether to run or to try and fight. In the end, I was forced to act when the barking dog bounded to the tree and pounced on me. I tried to run, but I was no match for its speed. Upon catching up to me, I cried out in pain when I felt its teeth sink into my leg, causing me to fall face first to the ground. For a moment I struggled with the dog, trying to hold its jaws away from my face, when I suddenly heard that all too familiar flapping of wings. From ahead I heard one of the figures in blue cry out, "What the hell?" I watched as Mother dove down, snatching the dog off of me before sending it hurling toward the figures. The other one attempted to leap at Mother to attack, only to be batted away like his companion. That was when one of the figures pointed a weapon similar to the one that had killed Big Brother, but this one appeared smaller. Boom, boom, boom. They were deafening, and I had to cover my ears. When I looked at Mother, she was unharmed and was gliding through the air, swiping her attacker off the ground by his throat. I heard 2 more deafening bursts, and I watched Mother drop her prey and fall to the ground. "Mother!" I screamed, running over to her. Before I could make it all the way to her, though, I felt large, rough hands seize my arms. My struggle was pitiful. Their grip was strong, like the dog's jaws. I felt them forcing me away while I flailed against them. "Let me go!" Mother wasn't moving. I could see a dark, black pool forming around her. "Mother, let me go! Mother!" They paid no attention, and I was finally silenced when I felt something strike me in the face. Instantly, everything went dark. I remember dreaming. I was back in the cave, the fire lit and gathered around me. Mother was there, and the others. They were looking at me, concentrating their judgment on me. "You've grown, little cub," Mother says. "You've grown and you've learned how to kill. I'm proud of you, little one. You're strong, even if you don't see it yet." "But how?" I cry out. "How am I strong? I couldn't save you. You're dead and it's all my fault. I'm just like them." "You are nothing like them. You, little cub, of strength you don't know of. You showed this when you killed the one that hurt Big Brother. You chose to avenge your family, and you'll do it again." "But what do you mean?" "You'll learn how to hunt. You'll become an apex predator. Become the hunter I raised you to be, like your siblings." And that was where the dream ended. I woke up again in a dark grey room similar to the cave. This, however, wasn't lit by a fire. Instead, long, bright white lights lit the area around me. In front of me was a table with a dark window behind it and a large door to the left of it. Suddenly the door opened and one of the figures entered, covered in white and wearing something reflective over his eyes. I wanted to leap forward to attack, but I found myself to be strapped to where I was. "Oh, easy there," I heard him say. "I'm not here to hurt you. My name's Dr. Carter, and I'd like to help you." I was silent. He laid some papers down on the table in front of me. "Can you tell me your name?" I just sat glaring at him, wanting only to rip him apart. He looked friendly, warm and welcoming. Oh, I wasn't fooled, though. I wasn't fooled by this or by his claim to want to help me. How could he want to help me? He's one of them. He's with the ones that killed Mother and Big Brother. "Can you tell me your name?" he repeated. "Cub," I spat harshly, my voice dripping with venom. "I'm Mother's little cub." I see. What's the name you were born with?" "I am Mother's little cub," I repeated. He tried to ask me again what my real name was, to which I continued to give the same answer. He tried to ask me questions about Mother and the family. I didn't answer. I felt he deserved no answer. "He's one of them. He's a man. I'm not. I'm Mother's little cub." It's these words that I've held on to now. These are the words I've lived by now for the past few years that I've spent in this place, this prison, far from the cave from where I'd always called home. It's these words that have kept me strong, and it's her words, that I'm not of them, that I am and will always be her little cub. Yeah, those keep me from falling for the lies they try to feed me, such as that my name was Benjamin, that I was abandoned by my real mother long ago, and that Mother wasn't real. No, they're liars. They're men. I'm not. I'm Mother's little cub. And it was there that I would continue to grow into an adult. As I grew, I would learn more and more of their ways, the ways of men. They taught me to read, to write, and how to communicate the way they do. Furthermore, the more I grew up, the more I would grow to detest myself when I looked into a mirror, seeing the all-too haunting image of Big Brother's killer facing me. The one who called me son. Yeah, he was one of them. He was a man. I'm not. I am Mother's little cub. At night I still see her. She tells me how proud of me she is, how much of a predator I've become. "You've learned their ways, little cub," she tells me. "You've earned their trust. Now use it against them. Use their knowledge against them the way we use the knowledge of the forest animals to hunt. I'm proud of you, little cub. I was always proud of you. Now, make me proud again." These were the words that drove me when I finally escaped. I remember everything, the way I ever so quietly left the room they confined me to and skulked down the dark halls. I remember how peaceful he, this man, Dr. Carter, looked as he sat at his desk, not suspecting in the least of my presence behind him. I remember how exhilarating it was as I crept closer to him, lowering myself to the ground, ready to strike. Oh, I was in the woods again. I was hunting just like my family did. I was the alpha predator, and he was my prey. I remember the way his eyes looked when I sprang upon him, sinking my teeth into his throat. He was frozen with fright. I remember the ecstasy I felt when life left his eyes, the same as when I watched life leave the eyes of the man in the woods. Through it all, no attention was alerted to anyone else. He died silently, agonizingly gasping for breath. After this, I was able to slip just as quietly through the main hall to find my way out, back into the outside world. From there, I spent many days and nights roaming until I finally found the woods again, where I remain now. I write this as a warning to you all after having claimed another prey only last night. There were 2 young boys that decided to enter these woods with their guns, just like the men that took Mother and my family from me. Well, I may look like you, sound like you, and have learned your ways, but I am not one of you. I'm something more. I'm an alpha, an apex predator, and I am, always was and always will be, Mother's little cub. And even in her death, I'll do anything for Mother.
I don't know what to say, but some authors you just develop this relationship with where you just love their work. And this man is just always creative, innovative, so much variety, so much stuff going on in his stories, and every one of them, in my opinion, is just fantastic. Really, really great stuff. So really happy to be working with him again on this one. A little bit shorter than some of the stories I do normally, but again, I'm on holiday. I told you, I've gone away for the week. So you're going to have to get what you get for the next few days. But there will be several more videos coming up. Don't you worry. So I'll post some photos from the Canary Islands. It's the first proper holiday I've been on in quite a long time, to be honest with you. So looking forward to it. Well, they'll be there by the time you're listening to this. Anyway, thanks for your continued appreciation of the stories. Hope you're enjoying the move back towards my self-filmed video backdrops. I feel pretty good about it. So, the person who was kind of really over the top and a bit of an asshole, you know what? I listened to you, and things are what they are now. So, I hope it's to your liking. Anyway, enough of this. All right, back again on Wednesday. There'll be a podcast over on the other channel as well. So, keep them coming, eh? All right.
Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this story today. Really means a lot to me and to the author of the story, of course. Well, if you want to know more about me, I'm pretty much everywhere on social media. You can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You can download my music on SoundCloud. I've got a Patreon if you feel like. Throw me $1 or $2. Very much appreciated. And of course, on Reddit, I have a place where you can leave stories if you want me to read one that you've written. Well, hoping to see you all again very soon. Till then, sweet dreams. Bye-bye.